I think the best illustration of what DCCORE is all about can be seen by looking back at events of the past year. Remember that in the summer of 2020, we were in the middle of a deadly pandemic that was out of control. Many infections, many people getting sick, many people dying. And the response of the mayor and the chancellor was to talk about how important it was to reopen schools in some form in the fall and get students and teachers back in the classroom. But WTU members knew better and put the safety of their students, families, and fellow members first, and organized many events throughout the summer to alert the community to the dangers of reopening schools too soon, and the need to put resources into making online learning as successful as it could be. You may remember the Only When It's Safe campaign and the many actions that WTU members organized which got the attention of the media and the community at large. Car caravans across the city and past the homes of political leaders, rallies at the Wilson Building and DCPS Central Office, phone call and email blitzes to political leaders, testifying at City Council and Board of Education hearings, outreach to student families in the community to provide support in obtaining the online technology promised to them by the Chancellor. These actions were organized and carried out by WTU members, not leadership, who even disapproved of some of the actions, saying we should not be confrontational or risk antagonizing the mayor. But the strategy worked, and I remember being at an action at Freedom Plaza one hot afternoon when the announcement came from the mayor that school would be all online for the first term of the year. This was a success that not only emboldened the membership, but which probably saved lives, and it was all due to the work of members. A couple of months later, the mayor and chancellor started talking about some sort of partial return to in-person school for term 2, despite the fact that the pandemic was still far from under control. And again, the members mobilized. We proposed and democratically approved a bolder action, a day when members would take a collective sick day to send the message that we are not going to endanger ourselves and our students by complying with a foolish reopening plan that would certainly increase community spread. And again, this action, entirely organized and carried out by the members, was successful. Just hours after it became clear that members were taking direct action on a massive scale, the chancellor announced that the plan to force the reopening of schools before it was safe had been scrapped. The mayor and the chancellor, in fact the whole city, had seen that the members of the WTU were willing to do what was necessary to keep their fellow members and students safe while ensuring that online instruction received the support that it needed. And we had the support of the families because they knew we were doing it for them as well. And then the expected threats and attempts to intimidate came from the mayor and the chancellor, because this newfound power from the WTU scared them. They initiated legal action to prevent the members from doing any other actions. They filed a grievance with the Public Employee Relations Board against the union. Members at peaceful rallies at the mayor's house began to be threatened with arrest. While these tactics didn't intimidate the members, they unfortunately caused some in the union leadership to have second thoughts about the Only When It's Safe campaign. And in January, with the pandemic still raging, with the predicted post-holiday infection surge, at several massive all-member meetings, members made their voices heard. Twice, a majority of members at these meetings voted their approval of a proposal to mobilize collective action in response to yet another attempt by DCPS to force members into unsafe buildings at the beginning of term 3. But the union leadership this time declared the votes invalid, and in conjunction with a messaging campaign that described dire consequences to the union should the members continue to take a strong collective stand for justice, they conducted their own electronic survey of members that asked if members would approve a collective action, but one to be determined by the WTU Executive Board, not the membership. Now, this proposal, of course, failed, and subsequently all momentum toward member-led actions fizzled, The union leadership pursued a legal course to counter a forced return to in-person instruction, which was unsuccessful, and the end result was that many members were forced back into buildings. Positive cases in schools went up, and the overall mood of the union membership quickly changed from one of excitement and empowerment to one of discouragement, disempowerment, and to a general feeling of having been betrayed by their leaders. So, what kind of union do we have now, today? And what kind of union do you want? Do you want a union that has clout, that has leverage to make demands for fair treatment and justice because the city leaders know that we will do what is necessary in the pursuit of those demands? Or do we have a union that is reduced to begging for justice because it is always making these demands from a position of weakness, whether it's around safe schools or impact or full and equitable funding, or replacing mayoral control of our school system with a more democratic and accountable system? Many of the members responsible for the actions that brought life back into the union this past year and made it a force to reckon with are the same members that make up the DC Caucus of Rank and File Educators, or DCCORE. This past year of successes, when the union was actually able to control events rather than react to them, is an illustration of how DCCORE wants every year to be as we work to bring the positive changes we need in public education and create the schools that students and teachers really deserve. That's the direction that DCCORE wants to take the union. It's the direction of the future. It's the direction that leads to building a strong, democratic, fighting union. And it's in the pursuit of that goal that we'd like you to join us.